Howdy cowdies! Today we're going to be making a simple junk journal as an introductory leatherworking project. The only sewing you'll need to do is for the papers. So for this project you'll need the following supplies. Paper. You can use print, line, news, whatever you like. Scissors. We'll be cutting paper and leather. Choose some sturdy ones. A ruler. Self-explanatory. And all. This will be to punch leather and or paper. Punching cradle and sewing needle and thread. Punching cradle is optional. You can use some styluses for your tooling. Elmer's glue will hold everything together. Pretty nifty. And then bits and bobs for hardware. Alrighty, so step one is to measure your leather, and that'll dictate what size notebook you can make. Mine was about 25 centimeters by 8 centimeters. So I'm going to make my pages 20 by 8 for each sheet will be 10 by 8. And we'll have that 5 centimeter left over for fold over and trimming as we need. So here you can see me just marking out on a piece of paper where all my sheets are going to be, and then you're going to use 6 of these strips of paper to make what is called a signature. That'll be each little booklet that you sew together. So with my measurements, I can get about 3 sheets per page, and then in total you're going to want 10 signatures, so 60 sheets total. And then once you cut all of these, as you see in the video here, I will be folding them in half. You could do it one at a time, but I like to do it all 6 at a time. It makes it have a more even fold throughout. And it also is a little quicker. And since this is an introductory video, we like it a little bit easier as a more sped up process. These signatures will need to have evenly spaced punch holes that align with each signature. You can get a punching cradle, but they run a bit expensive, so I've got this piece of cardstock, and I punch at 1 centimeter in between each hole. And I do that for all 10 sheets. Okay, next up, stitching. I like using the kettle stitch. It uses a little less thread than other methods, so you can see placeholder clip, placeholder clip, placeholder clip. You can see how I'm stitching. For this signature, I'm just weaving in and out of the holes, so I have a line between each hole on both sides of the signature. For the second signature, I'm going to go in through the top and out through the second hole. Now, this is where it gets a little complicated. I'm going to go out, loop through the first signature's stitches, and then I'm going to go back through the second hole. And again, out through the third hole, loop around the stitches, in through the third hole. Continue until the last hole, then don't go back into the signature, stay on the outside. And for the rest of it, we're going to go in between each signature and loop it, almost as if you're tying a knot. And then we're going to do this for the remaining signatures, and then we're going to tie the end off. Okay, so for cutting the backing paper, it's going to be one of the more simpler steps to this process. You can make this larger than the signatures, but I'm going to stay with the same 8 by 20, fold that in half. So you're going to make 2, and then you're going to glue them on top of the first and last pages of the book, almost as if it is another page. This is just going to be what we're gluing our leather to, and it's going to give some more structure. Okay, so for tooling, this is really the dealer's choice. What I like to do first is I make my template on paper and then I wet the leather down. This is just me making sure that the booklet will have the art centered. So then there's the template that I made. It's just a little sunflower. You can do whatever you like, so long as it's something within your wheelhouse. You can honestly just do your name. I'm using my little stylus tool, and I'm carving each of the lines that I've done on the paper, and that's going to transfer onto the leather. Keep in mind, I have the design facing me so I know what I'm doing, and it's not going to transfer onto the leather graphite-wise or ink-wise, depending on what you're using. Now, you can see me, I continually wet the leather. This makes it more supple and easier to tool. And I'm starting out with just my little stylus, and then as you go on with leatherworking, you can collect more tools, such as a swivel knife that'll give you those nice deep cuts into the leather. You can use any number of stamps. There's quite a few of them. What I like about those is they're all standardized. They all have like a serial number stamped into them. So if you're following a pattern and you see a random number, that's what that stamp is going to be. And then I use a mallet with those stamps, a rubber one, just because if you use metal on metal, you're going to wear out your tools, and it's going to be pretty loud and a little annoying for those around you. So anyways, here I am just tooling a sunflower for this little journal. It's going to take quite a minute, and I thought the process of sped up leatherworking is quite satisfying to watch. So here you go. make sure that my designs stay and pop without using different dyes or antiquing. We'll get into that in a later video. I will wood burn my stuff, or leather burn, I should say. I use a wood burner because that was what I have available. So I'm just going over the deepest lines first, getting some shading done, and then you'll see soon I go through all of the dotting for the background, just kind of making sure that you can see the design quite well. And then eventually I do put my logo in here. All right, so for turning this leather into the jacket, I like to fold the edges over rather than having a rough edge. So you can see me doing that with a ruler. I'm just bending it and creasing it where I want. And then I'll glue the edges down with some Elmer's, and then I'll clamp it. And I usually just use binder clips. They work pretty well. Just be careful because they will leave a mark on your work. So if you don't want that, then I'd recommend placing it underneath some weights such as books and leaving it to dry for quite a while. And then once it's dry, what you're going to do is you're going to lather some glue on that backing paper, and you're going to, I usually start with one end of the book and press it down, and then I go on to the other side, and I do the same thing, smooth it out, and then leave that to dry, and then pretty soon you've got your first beginner leatherworking object. Yay! Alright, thanks so much for sitting with me for this whole tutorial. I do hope you learned something from it, and please reach out if you have any questions. Alright, thank you so much. Goodbye!